Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Clinic Gym Radio. I am your host, Dr. Josh Satterlee, and it's my pleasure today to be joined by Dr. Kevin Christie. Kevin, what is up, my main man?
How are you, man? Good talking to you. Always a pleasure.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. Kevin is the host of the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Podcast. I think he's got like 6 podcasts, 8 websites, 14 clinics across Florida. I don't remember the current numbers, Kevin, so things are going well, though, right?
Yeah, definitely not those numbers, but I like to create.
Yeah, it's awesome, and you're pretty damn good at it. So,
Thank you.
For those chiropractors listening, can you give them a little synopsis of the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Show and what that also is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. About 3 years ago, we started the Facebook group, and then a year after that, it spawned the podcast around marketing and business. And so we've done that, and it's been we just hit our 2-year anniversary back in April. Never missed a week. I think one of the things with content creation that I've talked a lot about chiropractors need to do is to be consistent. And one of the things that when I set out on podcasting was I learned from a guy named John Lee Dumas, and had the pleasure of having dinner with him once in Puerto Rico. And he was really my early guide into podcasting. And that was one of the things that he taught at the time. And it's not a for sure thing, but you know, pick a day a week. If it's going to be a weekly podcast, release it, do all that. I've got a good podcast producer that makes sure that happens as well. So it's just a lot of interviews, a lot of maybe topics. Sometimes I just riff on a topic as well. It's not necessarily always an interview, but try to distill down everything marketing, business, and even sometimes mindset.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, you had a guest on about 2.5 years ago that looked a lot like me. And that was actually the start of the Clinic Gym hybrid, whatever you want to call it, revolution, or the Facebook page, the website, the podcast, all started because of your show.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I've expressed it to you. I talk to a lot of chiropractors, and we have a lot of the Chiropractic Success Academy members fill out this practice audit. And one of the questions has been, where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? What would you like to accomplish? And so many of them, it's implement the clinic gym hybrid. And so that's exciting to see.
Yeah, well, I think it fits perfectly. I think I've told you this before. It fits perfectly with your before, during, and after units of business as a perfect aftercare for chiropractic. Like it's a perfect flow into there.
Absolutely. It really is. And plus it's good for their health.
Yeah. And it's recurring monthly revenue is a beautiful thing when you got it. It's one of the downsides of clinical practice is we all get squirmish about recurring monthly revenue, Yep. Yeah. So Kevin, I wanted to have you on today because I want to talk about some marketing ideas for the folks listening. You are I would say, the world's leading expert in chiropractic office marketing. You've been speaking at Parker. You got asked back to Parker. They want you to, MPI is having you look at their marketing, right? There's a bunch of different things, which is all awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You have mentioned before the idea of, and this is what I want to dive in today, the idea of land you own and land you rent, essentially, with your marketing. And I think it's a very big deal because I think people don't, it's one of those things you don't realize you're on rented land until the landlord comes and takes it away, right?
Yes, exactly. And one of the, institutes that I really learned my marketing from was the Content Marketing Institute, and they're based out of Cleveland. And I've gone to their master class, and they have this huge live event in Cleveland, and they really were instrumental for me from 2014 on. And one of the things they really talk about was building your property on rented land versus owned land. And the big difference is for instance, Facebook. Like I can go back in time. I remember I opened my practice in 2010, my own practice, and I started the Facebook business page and started posting on there. I've got over 3,000 likes in the community on my business page, and a lot of people are like, oh, how'd you get that many? I was like, well, I've been doing it consistently since then. And back then I could post something, and if I had like 500 likes, they all saw it for free,
Yeah.
And people built their business on that.
These are the salad days of Facebook we'll tell our grandkids about, right? Like, oh man, when I was on there, I saw every post.
Yeah, like it's the chiropractor in the 1980s with insurance, right? Now, if you were the chiropractor that built your practice in the 2010, 12, whatever, you're just like, oh, how Facebook was so great.
Right.
But yeah, then obviously they changed the game, and now it's very expensive to get people to see your stuff. So like I got, I think, close to 3,100 people now. And if I post it, I will organically reach considerably less people than when I had 500 people organically, right? So you got to put money behind it. And that's just an example. And there was other people that built this is not really chiropractic related, but there were influencers that built their platform on Vine and such.
Or what's the other one? I just cleaned up all the apps on my phone.
Periscope was another one, right? Where those are all forms, MySpace, those are all forms of rented land. And I'm not here to say that you shouldn't utilize them, because I definitely think you should, but you really need to consider building your marketing on owned properties. And so that's a key distinction that I try to make people understand. And then obviously the next question is like, what are owned properties, and I think it's 2019. I think your website has to be your kind of your hub, right? Like it's got to be the real property that is yours, that is the epicenter of your marketing strategy, and then everything else, it's kind of that spoken hub model. It's like everything else comes from that.
Yeah.
And I think people are doing okay with their website in the chiropractic profession, but they could do a lot better. And so that's a big one. And we can break that down in a minute. Your email list is owned, right? Like you don't own MailChimp per se, but they can't take your email list from you. Right. So your email list is yours. As chiropractors, we have a kind of I guess we can call it an unfair advantage of where we have to get our consumers' physical mailing address. Not every business has that ability. They have to get a little bit.
For those listening, like I have a friend in internet marketing, and he said that if you have the physical mailing address, just as a lead, it triples the value of that person.
Exactly. And I think that goes unsaid in the chiropractic profession. Right. I think part of the problem is it can get pricey with direct mail, but there are very good strategies you can do that aren't as expensive. But even if you're a practice that's got healthy profits, it could definitely be worth $1,000 or $1,200 a month to send out a regular newsletter too.
We also, along that thread, we have their physical address. We also have some demographic information about them that, it's like a fish swimming in water. Like we're, to the internet marketers of the world, and I'm not saying go out there and sell that information. I want to be very clear. Like that's not what it's all about. But you have a ton of information that you may not realize you can leverage as a chiropractor. For example, you got demographics, just knowing male, female, rough age, like within a 10-year bracket. There are a lot of people that pay companies thousands of dollars to figure that out off an email address. And then we also have their cell phone number, right? Which, how many email addresses do you think you have in the world, Kevin? I mean, how many active ones, let's just say active ones that actually filter to your inbox?
For my chiropractic?
No, just as Kevin Christie, like, you got at least 5, I'm going to guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, but how many cell phone numbers do you have?
Yeah, 1.
Yeah. So when people start looking at that, like, knowing that Kevin's number is whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting off topic here, but
no, it's right on topic.
If you establish that as a communication result, as communication pathway, if that's a huge if, with just like the website, quality content, reasons that I'm calling, not being annoying, then that cell phone becomes another owned pathway of communication, right? But people sometimes neglect that. And the email address is an owned pathway of communication. Yep. And once again, you're saying that lead back to the owned mansion on the hill, which should be your website.
Exactly. I think that's the key, because what you want to do with your website is there's many things, but part of the mistake people have made is it's essentially just an online business card, and it's not working for them. Your website should be designed nicely. Okay, let's get that out of the way. We don't need to focus on it anymore, but it's got to be designed nicely. It can't be
John Morrison. There you go. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be up to date in 2019. It can't look like it's from 2008. It's definitely things have changed. So you got to, just move on from that. And then it's got to be compelling, right? So if they do get to your website somehow, they need to be compelled to say to themselves, I don't really want to look for any other chiropractors. This is where I want to be, right? And that can go down a whole rabbit hole of like, okay, you got to have a niche, and then you got to be compelling to that niche. You can't be compelling to every person, that's for sure, but you got to be compelling. And that's kind of, I think, really where a John Morrison comes into play, is with the copy and some of your other things like testimonials, and that's a big part of it. Then you want it to be a content platform, okay? So you want it to have, you know, an article or blog section on there. You want to have some really good information on certain pages. You want to have, you know, I have my YouTube channel filters right onto my website. So there's like we have a whole section on media. And so that's on there. I've been fortunate enough to have been on some national TV programs. So I highlighted that and make sure it's like, gives me that social proof for sure. And so if you have any social proof things, you want that to be on there. And then lastly, you know, you want to make sure that you've got it SEO optimized, search engine optimized, because so Google does see it. And I think if you can handle those things, and obviously we could probably have a whole weekend workshop on making all this happen. But yeah, that's where you're going to do pretty well overall with your website.
So to go back to the rented versus owned land, once you have that website that has those aspects established,
Mm-hmm.
what does that allow you to do in the future? Why is that such a big deal? Because again, I think the rented thing, you don't realize that until your landlord pulls your lease. Like, you know, but what does that allow you to do with the consumer? I'm trying to paint the future vision of why you'd go through all that work.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. It kind of goes to that before, during, and after unit. Now you can use your website for all three of those, and people will get to your site and actually stay on there and utilize it as a resource. And so, let me give you an example of what we're working on right now. And I don't want to think like younger chiropractors have to start going down this path so soon. It's been a process for me. You know, obviously been working up to it, but you'd like to have some form of lead capture on your website, but it needs to be something that they are interested in. And what we're putting together, so my website is on WordPress, and I had a web designer, and then there's a WordPress plugin. There's a ton of plugins, but there's one called LearnDash. And essentially it's the ability to make an online academy or free course or anything on your website, and it actually looks like your website. Okay? So a difference being, like, for instance, the Chiropractic Success Academy is on a Kajabi platform, and it looks great and everything like that, but it doesn't necessarily look like the actual CSA website. And so you could do that, which is fine, but LearnDash makes it look like it's yours, and people are a little impressed by that. And so we're doing a free desk jockey injury prevention course. We're going to roll that out in the next week or two, and then we're going to do one for triathletes, injury prevention for triathletes, and then the third one's going to be low back. Now, sounds complicated, but I've done a lot with desk workers, so I've already had the content. So this is a great example of repurposing. Same thing, last year I did an injury prevention summit, virtual summit for triathletes. So I'm just taking that content, repurposing it into a free course. And then I've got a bunch of stuff that we've created for low back, which I think a lot of chiropractors have. And so I'll just repurpose it into a low back course. And we will now have these on our website, on the homepage. And for the before unit of marketing, we will then run Facebook ads for it. We'll do different ways to get that free course out, try to get people to register just their name and email address. It's a 6-part little course that is like they watch module 1. Once they register for it, it emails them. And then the next day it emails them module 2. So it's a drip type of format, and it's easy to consume and digest. It's not going to be this long, extensive course. I just want them to get a lot of value conveniently, and then I get their information. Now they fall into my email list. Okay, so that would be your new patient or your before unit marketing, right? Okay, now a during unit for that same course is, you know, Bob comes in, he's a desk worker with an issue. We can then get him into that thing, and so that's going to be a patient experience thing. It's like, oh wow, I went to this chiropractor, and part of their care was they knew I sat at a desk, and I got a free online course that was a supplement to my treatment at their office. Okay, and so now that's a during unit aspect of marketing or patient experience. And then after is I will utilize this two ways. Probably could do more, but early on I'm going to do two ways. I'm going to email my list. Like once it's done, I'm going to email my list. And so that's after unit. And obviously I'm not trying to capture their email because I already have it, but I'm trying to provide them with really good experience and content so that maybe they come back in again for reactivation. And then also I'm going to run a Facebook ad that's specifically, so that's that whole thing where you can take your email list, put it into a Facebook audience, run an ad to that audience only. So only the people that have that been in your office see it. So that's another way of the after unit. And so that's a kind of a long-winded answer to how you can really utilize your owned property in your marketing and really help grow your practice and give honestly kind of that wow factor, right? Like I think if you're doing that in your community and people are seeing that and your patients are getting that during their treatment plan or whatever, I think that's just the next level that not a lot of healthcare providers in general are offering their community.
Yeah, man, you certainly provide a ton of value there. And the great thing was the only part that rented land came in, you said run a Facebook ad at the end. Essentially what you said is you're going to build this awesome farm that produces great stuff. And then you're going to put up a billboard that says, hey, come to our awesome farm. But what I want to make sure that the listeners hear, if that billboard got taken away, back when Facebook was, Zuck was in front of Congress talking about like that Information Britannica or whatever that thing was.
Yeah.
What if Facebook had gotten shut down right then? What if they said, hey, you got a moratorium, you're going to be shut down within 6 months? Where would people have gone for, hey, I want to put up my billboard. I want to talk about my practice. And what you're saying is that like you already have a steady stream of people who have been to your place. Well, I'm saying your website, been to your website, you're emailing them, they're following up, there's stuff to offer them there. There's, in any store, there's going to be your little trinkets by the check stand, like, oh, you want a pack of gum? And then there's also going to be the big ticket items in the back. You have all those things available, and all you're relying on Facebook for is your billboard, right?
Yep.
But a lot of practices, I think a lot of early practitioners, like chiropractors, get out of school and they think that what they only need is the Facebook stuff, and they don't look at, you have to have something on the back end.
Well, yeah, that kind of goes back to my presentation in Vegas where I talked about the roadmap, and you have the destination.
By the way, that thing was awesome. Is that available to anybody anywhere?
Yeah, that the full presentation's not other than inside the Chiropractic Success Academy. But I think I shared the actual slides inside the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Group.
All right. So if people listening go to the Modern Chiropractic Marketing Group on desktop, by the way, it's going to be a whole lot easier. Don't do it on your phone. They can find those files.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay, cool.
And so, yeah, we talked about the vehicle to get to the destination, and then the GPS, which was like story branding stuff, your messaging, and then the fuel is the content, right? And a lot of times people are focusing on the vehicle, but they have no fuel. And the vehicle is Facebook or Instagram or email or LearnDash, right? So the LearnDash Academy on my website, that's not the content per se, that's the vehicle to get the content out that I produced. And that's a key distinction where people are just focusing on the vehicle in their marketing, but their content strategy is not sufficient.
I'm glad you brought that up. Do you mind if I bring up one of my sponsors here, Kevin? Because it fits perfectly with this.
Perfect.
Yeah. The Clinic Gym Radio is currently sponsored by Membrant.com. Membrant, like Rembrandt, but Membrant.com. And what Membrant does is they build a branded app for you and your practice. So if you want to deliver content to people, so say like what you're talking about, Kevin, you want to deliver a low back course on an app that lives on their iPhone, Membrant can help you put that together. This will be your app. It's not somebody else's. It'll have your logo. It'll be in the app store under your name. They just help you with the back end and help you protect the content. But Membrant.com delivers it. And ironically, yesterday, I got the Clinic Gym hybrid app, which you can go to clinicgym.app. I think we have a website redirect there, clinicgym.app, and you can see our app and download it. It'll have all of our course content. It'll allow you to, we'll put some news updates. Podcasts will get released there first in the future. We'll also have additional, so if Kevin and I go off topic and you're drinking coffee, it's an early morning podcast, but if we get some wine involved, we want to go for some evening, late night discussions, those will be on that app as well. So if you're interested in having an app for your own clinic, I would highly recommend membrant.com. And I think that's one way to capture, that's one way to deliver content to your audience that they can consume very easily. Everybody always has their phone. If they're sitting in the bathroom, or they're sitting on a bus or something like that, on a plane, they can get that content right from you. So I'm really excited about that and what they put together. They delivered way before, I've never had this happen. They delivered well before the deadline and well under budget, which two great things. And I'm impressed with what they built. So anyways, going along with that, that is like one more way for us to deliver content to people, because it'll live on their phone. They can just check it like you would Facebook, right? I mean, Facebook is essentially a time filler. And we wanted that kind of capability as well, so that we own that content, own that relationship with people when we deliver that content. Make it super easy. Yeah, so the app is a vehicle. Your website should be a vehicle. I'm guilty of this, though. My website is not a great content delivery platform yet. I shouldn't say that. I have paid courses on there to deliver, but I wouldn't say I have a whole bunch of other stuff on there that's delivering good content. So it's definitely something I need to focus on.
Well, yeah. And, I actually am relaunching the Modern Chiropractic Marketing website as well, because of a similar thing where I was using podcast websites, which I have actually liked. It was a good thing, but it was, X amount per month, which didn't need to be. And I didn't think I could get everything out of it that I wanted to. So I'm just switching to a regular site and really going to be focusing on making the Modern Chiropractic Marketing website a very good content hub. Going to bring out, I've done it before. You were a guest blogger. I'm going to be inviting more guest bloggers on there. Really going to make it something that's a destination for chiropractors to learn stuff for free.
That's awesome. So 2 questions I want to ask you about that then. First off, I know that we're recording this in late spring. We got some people who just graduated school. Mm-hmm. Got others that are going to graduate at the end of this year, right?
Yeah.
When you're talking about websites, if you go back and talk to the Kevin Christie of 2009, right? You went to Logan, right?
Yeah, the Harvard of chiropractic schools.
All right. Well, I guess then that makes SCU the Stanford, right? East Coast,
California.
West.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, actually, this is a Logan Day. I'm interviewing Brandon Steele later, who actually graduated right around your time, right?
Yeah, we were there around the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys have done okay for yourselves, I guess. Yeah. So if you were to go back, can you give us a real high level, like step 1 through 5 of setting up your practice? I'm going to make the exception, not your physical space.
Okay.
I think people think, oh, the only thing my practice is this physical space. And it's like, nah, you could actually do really well out of another office or out of the trunk of your car or whatever. But what things would you make sure you had in place?
Okay. So we're forgetting the space. We're coming out. It's now we're saying in 2019 or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If I was doing this in 2009, but I had 2019 technologies for sure. Yeah, I would start with the website. The thing that's cool now is that you can do it without having to spend $3,000 like I think I did in 2010 or whatever it was. So you can get a platform that's very easy to work on, and it's a low monthly cost. So that would be one. And I would do the things that I talked about as far as the website. Like I would build that as my hub. I would then make sure I have a very robust Google My Business. Okay. And I would get as much information and pictures, and even like if you do have a good physical space, like we brought in a guy to do a virtual 360 tour inside of my clinic, kind of like you have the Google My or the Street thing.
Yeah.
They could do that for inside your clinic, but I would just really build out my Google My Business and start focusing on getting some good Google reviews with that. Okay. That would be a second part. The third thing I would do is I'm just going to lump it all together. I would build out my YouTube, Instagram and Facebook business page and make that really well developed. Okay.
If you were to rank order those real quick, which order would you go in?
Facebook still, YouTube, maybe, yeah, YouTube, Instagram, 2A, 2B. I think it also depends on what your demographics are.
Well, the other piece YouTube also feeds your Google stuff, so you get a double dose there for early marketing.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't think chiropractors need to look at YouTube as they're going to just get a million views on their videos and they're going to get ad dollars from YouTube. That's just not the case. But
please don't look at Instagram as anybody caring about them.
Yeah.
Posts,
Yeah, exactly. So I would say, YouTube is more of a few things. It's getting good content on there. Google owns YouTube, so they're going to rank that higher. So you'll get a little more SEO juice. You can utilize the videos in your during and after unit marketing and things like that. So look at YouTube for that. So that would be my third. My fourth is I would get amazing, and I would probably put this back. I would actually reorder this and put this at like number 1 or 2, public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that was how I built my practice, frankly, in 2005. I feel like I did a good job in Vegas speaking in front of a lot of people. And I had people come up and say like, oh, did you work on that a lot and everything? And I was like, yeah, I worked on it, but I've been public speaking since 2005.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it a lot in the community, and I've been doing it. I've had opportunities to speak in large places as well. So I've just done a ton of it, but that would be a big one. Even if you're not good at it, I was not good at it in younger years. I still have a lot of room to grow with it, but just keep doing it. And then it's cool. Like if you get really good at public speaking or effective at it, it then ends up helping out your patient communication as well. And then that grows your practice, right? It just all works. Like I also attribute doing pretty good in Vegas to the fact that I do have a podcast and I'm always talking and I'm talking about this stuff. And so it just like, it's second nature. So,
well, I think that, I don't know which one works better, but if you were early in practice, I would say getting good at public speaking will also mean that your content delivery for your videos will be better, clear, but I think it also will feed your confidence about speaking, because oftentimes it's difficult to talk to the big blank camera, there's no response from that. And for me personally, I don't know why this is. Big rooms like Vegas are not intimidating. Small, like when I probably spoke 50 times at country clubs, the smaller, the 8 people, the 10 people, those are intimidating. It's like every opinion matters here. It's not going to be washed out. And but if just for those starting up, if you are good at public speaking, or at least you make yourself available, there is no end to the possibilities. I mean, every Rotary Club, every golf course, every golf pro. I mean, you've done some public speaking with another golf pro, right? With the triathlon group. Mm-hmm. They're all looking for great info.
Yeah. That's how I did. I did so many triathlon and running group talks on Saturday mornings. It was crazy. I felt like every weekend, and that was tough because I was like 27 and single and going out on Friday and Saturday nights.
Yeah.
And I'm getting up at 7 a.m. to give a talk in front of 40 runners.
I did the same thing. Like I have a sheet somewhere of how to give a talk in a parking lot.
Yes.
Considerations about like, don't set this down, or don't make that mistake, or don't demonstrate foam rolling to this group because we know they're in the parking lot. Like you can't show foam rolling on asphalt, Oh
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Or like the worst is I used to work a lot of post-run stuff where we'd bring a table and do some like stretching and muscle. And like these people just ran forever, and they're coming in, it's like disgusting, sweaty and smelly.
We used to cover our portable tables in like shower curtains. And there, to your point, on the old shower curtain, there were like numbers imprinted from where they sweat the Sharpie onto the table. You make out like a backwards 7 and all sorts of stuff. I'm like, this is thick.
A little off topic, but on topic. One of the worst experiences of my life was, I'm active release technique certified, and they used to have a biomechanics certification, and part of getting that was you had to go work an Ironman event. So I went up to Lake Placid, New York in 2007 and worked that event. And anybody that's worked a transition tent of an Ironman, it is a disturbing situation. Like you've got 2 things that I won't get, but one is you got these porta potties that are out there, and I mean, these people get explosive, and you walk in there and it's not good.
It's a war zone.
It's a war zone.
Yeah.
it's then the second thing is that you got to help you have a male tent, you have a female tent for a reason, because I mean, they're stripping down to next to nothing, and you're
They
helping
don't give two
yeah,
craps.
you're helping this naked dude get his shoes on. You're like, holy, it's
Yeah.
like, it was interesting to say the least, but it was a good thing. But
yeah, I worked a couple of those too, and it's like the people are fairly healthy, and they're usually done well in life. They're triathlon attracts professionals and six-figure incomes, and it's like the healthiest like combat medical tent you've ever seen. It's all, there's no camouflage, it's all lycra and spandex, but the stuff you see in there, you're like, I don't ever want to see that again.
Oh, for sure. No, it was eye-opening.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. So.
Which that kind of rolls into my fifth thing. And again, you could probably reorder some of these, but I think one of the mistakes the younger docs are making is, and maybe it's some of my fault because they hear people like me talking about it so much, but they try to build their practice behind the computer screen.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to happen. A lot of this stuff that we talk about with modern marketing and the technologies and stuff, you have to work up to that. And it has to be kind of a supplement to boots on the ground, grassroots marketing, whatever you want to call it, networking, but it's working events, it's having cups of coffee with people. It's just being out there. That's how it's going to happen, really.
Hey, we'll be right back with our interview, but real quick, I wanted to make sure that you know about our Accelerator program and our Accelerator Lite program. Both of those lay out the 42 steps it takes to start a hybrid facility, set up your business model, perform sales training with your staff, and also cover yourself in case of any issue. We have those programs available at our website, clinicgymhybrid.com. Again, that's clinicgymhybrid.com. The full Accelerator program includes building your fitness website, your logo, and a bunch of other time with me. If you're like, hey, I don't want the time, I just want to get up and going, then you may be interested in the Accelerator Lite program, which you can check out, both of which include the 42 high-impact lessons to get up and going. And I hope you take me up on that. All right, we'll get right back to our interview now. Thanks a lot. Can I make one jump into your list, and you tell me if this fits on your list? Because a lot of people, when I was starting out, were like, oh, you got to meet and do all this. And it's like, yeah, I'm trying, but you never know who to meet with or what to do early on, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the greatest tips I ever got was, you ever heard of the idea of the Dream 100?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Basically, if you sat down, if you're a young chiropractor, made a list of your 100 people that if they were in your corner, you would be wildly successful. Yep. So make a list of those people, and then set about prioritizing lunch or coffee or breakfast or whatever with those people, not just random people, because you don't have an unlimited amount of time, unfortunately, Right. But if we were to put together a Dream 100 for chiropractic, if you want to get, let's say you were trying to get the Modern Chiropractic Marketing podcast out there, the Dream 100 might include other chiropractic podcasts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who are the people recording those podcasts? And it might include influencers in the space. So Bill Morgan of Parker Seminars would be great. Mm-hmm. Bobby Maybe, who's a good friend of ours. And you start going down that list. And the thing is, you're going to write down 100 names, work on getting 100. So if you're setting up a new practice, who are the triathlon coaches in your area? Who are the golf instructors in your area? Or who are the ER docs in your area? Whatever. You're going to get 100. If you get 5 of those people, life becomes easy. If you get 10 of them, oh my God, if you had 25 and you maintain a relationship with them the first 3 years of your practice, it would be home run city,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that people negate that, but that kind of gives some structure around that in-person marketing. Cause I do think it gets neglected, especially early on when ironically, you have the time, but you don't have the money to pay for marketing.
Yeah. I think there's a few things that what ends up happening is, obviously some people are introverts, and some people maybe don't have the confidence, they don't have the momentum out there, but a lot of times that doesn't happen until you get into the, trenches of it. And then you start to get a little more confident, and you start to obtain more contacts, you start to get momentum, you start to have opportunities that you didn't have before, and people connect you with other people. It just becomes this thing, right? And then then you get one of the things that I'm doing in my practice, and we're going to make this a module in CSA, is leveraging your patient's contacts. Because what ends up happening now, once you get a pretty robust practice going, you maybe don't have as much time wherewithal to follow up on leads that you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're trying to put a system in place to where, when Mary comes in with back pain and she's working a lot in yoga, it's like, okay, how do we focus on or follow up with that yoga instructor? Or if they have back pain and they play golf and they have a teaching pro, ask the patient like, oh, do you mind if we talk to your teaching pro about this condition? We can work around it, blah, blah, blah. Usually they're going to be fine. And then you call that teaching pro. And so we're going to try to organize it in such a way in my practice with all the moving parts to where that's not falling through the cracks anymore.
That's awesome. Yeah, doing that early on is huge. And to feed that, it buffers those, or it sustains those early on in practice. I personally would send an email at least once a week to my entire patient base, even when that patient base is 5 people. I think that gets neglected, but that consistent sending a good email that's interesting or funny or like it builds a relationship. Mm-hmm. That's free except for the time. And the cool thing is when you have 5 patients, it works. And when you're like Kevin, you have 5,000 patients, it works. Like the same amount of time. In fact, you probably get faster at it to have the same exposure.
Yeah, you get pretty good at it. And like one of the things I do is I think it's every Tuesday on my Google Calendar, it's a task and it just says, networking. And then on that task, you can go in there and you can put things in the body of that. And so I just start writing down the names of people I need to follow through. And then when I do, I kind of cross it off, and then I do it on a Tuesday. Then I just move it up to the next Tuesday. So every week I'm looking at that and say, okay, who can I schedule out for next week? And
awesome.
Do that. And so just certain things to keep it top of mind.
Yeah. And that's led to some huge relationships, right? Like your trip to Chicago, things like that.
Yeah, they just overall, like, it's help, whether you're talking about Modern Chiropractic or my private practice, a lot of it is the same type of strategy. Some of it is different, but a lot of it is the same.
Yeah.
And it's definitely helped. I mean, collaborating that's the key, right?
Yeah. It's like calling a friend and asking, hey, would you be on my podcast?
Yeah, exactly.
It work out okay for me.
It's huge. No, collaboration is the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah.
People aren't doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're up against the clock. I know you got patients to get back to.
Yeah.
So let's just recap real quick. Set up strategies to have owned properties, owned assets for marketing. Facebook is not something you can own. Instagram is not something you can own. Even YouTube's not something you can own, although you could argue you own that content a little bit. But that would be like a great website that's kind of like the hub of your whole operation. And it has spokes formed by Facebook, maybe direct mail, text messaging, email, all those things, but have that central hub that has great content and clarity for both incoming patients and current patients, right?
Yep.
It's easier for people to get started with you, but once they start, there's a reason they come back. And then I think what you said, take everything you got and leverage it, man. So if you recorded a talk for triathlon coaches 2 years ago, if you got it on video, man, offer it out to the world. It's great content. And then for those people starting out, you would say website. Then number 2, I think we determined was public speaking.
Yeah.
Then number 3 is
we'll probably do like networking, grassroots would probably be number 3.
Yeah. By the way, I think your order was right. Website, then Google My Business, because when you public speak, people are going to want to look for you.
Yeah. There you go.
I think have that Google My Business and then public speaking, and then down at number 5, possibly 6 is do the Facebook, Instagram, all that, but make sure that first part's actually in place.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, if people want to reach out or listen to more of what you got, where can they find you?
Oh, man. The Modern Chiropractic Marketing Group on Facebook is definitely a lively group, and we've got a lot of good information on there for free. The Chiropractic Success Academy, you could always check that out. You can Google that if you'd like, or find it in the group. And that's Bobby and I working on that together. If you feel like emailing me, Kevin@moderndeskjockey.com is a good way of getting a hold of me as well.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, thank you for the time this morning, or at least it's morning where I am. Might not be morning when people are listening to this podcast, but I do appreciate it. And thanks for all you do for chiropractic, man.
Thank you.
So on behalf of Dr. Kevin Christie, this is Dr. Josh Satterlee saying, go out there, maximize your license, and live the life you dream of. Thanks, everybody. Hey, just as a quick reminder, you're going to hear and see more about this, but Racket Fit and On Base U are 2 new sports screening processes coming from the same brain that brought you TPI. And I'm really excited about these. Racket Fit is for your tennis players, racquetball, squash, anybody that swings a racket or paddle in their sport. Racket Fit works great. And On Base U is all about baseball and softball. So if you're working in populations of baseball and softball, these certifications are huge. And the great news, now each of them will get you 13 chiropractic continuing education units. 13 units for taking a weekend course all about the sport that you love. I think there's nothing better when the great education that you love also produces the credits that you want. So with that, go to onbaseu.com. That's the baseball softball one, or go to Racket Fit, RACQUETFIT, Racket Fit. Make sure you put the Q in there and check out those programs. There's courses all across the nation. They're putting together 13 units for each one for the weekend. I think it's a fantastic way to get your CEs. And we hope to see you back on Clinic Gym Radio. Talk to you later. Hey, how about that? Another great interview here on Clinic Gym Radio. Listen, if you're serious about starting up your own Clinic Gym Hybrid, then please go to clinicgymhybrid.com and check out our website there. We also love to get you involved in our accelerator program, which will walk you through step-by-step the 42 pieces you need to start your own Clinic Gym Hybrid. I'm Dr. Josh Satterlee. We'll talk to you later.